Have you ever felt like nothing you do seems to work when it comes to disciplining your kids? You've tried reasoning, you've tried consequences, you've even tried raising your voice, and somehow it ends with frustration, with tears, or with tension between you and your spouse. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to discipline your kids calmly and effectively without yelling, without power struggles, without losing your cool, and you'll learn how to stay united with your spouse, how to teach your kids responsibility, and how to create a calmer, more peaceful home. Hi, I'm Kelly DuPee, pastor, police chaplain, Christian marriage coach, and author of the book, Turn It Up, How to Have the Lifelong Marriage That You Really Want. As someone who's raised 2 kids and now has 4 grandkids, I can tell you discipline doesn't have to be a battle. It can actually strengthen your relationship with your kids and bring more peace to your family. There's a lot of great parenting books out there, but there's 3 in particular that really spoke to my wife and I when we were raising our kids. It was Boundaries with Kids by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, Boundaries with Teens by Dr. Townsend, and 1, 2, 3 Magic by Dr. Thomas Phelan. Well, the Boundaries books helped us understand the why behind discipline, why kids need structure and consistency and love. And the 1, 2, 3 Magic gave us the how, a simple, practical method that worked wonders in our home. Dr. Phelan teaches that every parent needs 2 qualities: to be warm, friendly, and demanding and firm. That's really just another way of saying grace and truth, which is what John Townsend and Henry Cloud teach. Grace and truth need to be in balance, and Jesus came full of both grace and truth. Grace says, I love you and I'm here for you. Truth says, I love you too much to let you keep doing that. Early on in our marriage and in our family life, my wife was the truth parent and I was the grace parent, but it really didn't work. And when we both learned to be both grace and truth, to connect and correct at the same time, that's when things really changed. By the way, if communication between you and your spouse is a challenge and you're not on the same page, I have a free resource for you if you'd like to improve the communication in your relationship. Just type guide in the comments and I'll send you the link to get my free couples communication guide. So let's start with this concept. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about training. The word discipline comes from the same root as the word disciple. Remember, Jesus had 12 disciples, and to be a disciple means to be a learner. It means that you're going to teach that disciple something. Well, discipline is the same idea. Your goal as a parent is to teach your kids how to make good decisions, because those choices have consequences. And when they understand that, they're going to be able to live responsible, productive lives. Now, every parent has 3 main jobs. The first is to stop bad behavior. Those are things that are harmful, disrespectful, or disruptive. Secondly, to encourage good behavior, which is helping your kids develop responsibility, being honest, and having self-control. And your third job is to strengthen your relationship with your kids, because discipline without connection doesn't work. It's rules without relationship, which could possibly lead to rebellion. So how do you do that in real life? Well, let me share a simple tool. It's 1, 2, 3 Magic. And when we found this and started using it, it really made a difference in our parenting and in our discipline. This is from Dr. Phelan's book, 1, 2, 3 Magic. And it's not really magic. It's just a behavioral technique that you can use. When your child is doing something they shouldn't, maybe it's teasing their brother or sister, talking back, not doing their chores, refusing to listen, you calmly say, that's 1. There's no lecture, no emotion, just clear direction. If they keep going, you say, that's 2. If it happens again, well, now what? It's 3. And now comes the consequence. It's that simple, and it works. Now, the consequence might be what Dr. Phelan calls a break time in his book, or maybe what most of us grew up with calling a timeout. It's 1 minute for every year of your child's age. So if your child's is 5, it's 5 minutes. So the goal isn't to punish, it's to give them space to calm down and to think. You can also use what's called as a break time alternative, which is basically losing a privilege. For example, if you keep arguing with me, we're going to go out for ice cream tonight, but you have to stay home with grandma and you're not going to get any. So that's a consequence. The key here is calm consistency. You're not shaming, you're not yelling, you're training. Now, let me tell you, there's 2 big mistakes that parents make when it comes to discipline. Mistake number 1 is this: it's too much talking. We try to explain, reason, and persuade our kids into obedience. It's as if they're miniature adults. And maybe what you're thinking is that your 5-year-old is going to stop and say, "Wow, Mom, I see your point. I understand that hitting my sister is not nice. I won't do it again." Well, guess what? Let's be realistic. That never happens. Long explanations only invite more arguing. They're pushing back. The truth is, kids don't need speeches. They need structure. Mistake number 2, according to Dr. Phelan, is this: it's too much emotion. You say stop it, and they don't. So you say it again louder. And before you know it, you're yelling. They're crying, and everyone else is upset. Henry Cloud and John Townsend called this the ignore and zap cycle. You ignore bad behavior until you explode. When that happens, you lose your authority. Your kids learn they can push your buttons until you blow up. So what do you do instead? Well, I suggest that you calm down first. Take a deep breath. Step away if you need to. And here's a simple trick that really works. Have a drink of water. It will reset your brain's stress response. It gets you out of that primitive fight or flight reaction. And then once you're calmed down, then you can follow through with the consequence that maybe you've already decided on. And that's what I suggested in my other parenting videos that I'll link to in the description. It's the idea of talking with your spouse and deciding ahead of time what are the consequences to misbehavior. Now, discipline that's calm, consistent, and predictable, it's going to build respect and trust. By the way, if these tips are helpful, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and the bell, and then leave a comment. Let me know how you're disciplining your kids and what's working for you. I'd love to hear from you. Plus, your comments help the algorithm send this to more people to hear this kind of message. Let me give you a few other practical tips that have helped my wife and I and other parents that I've coached. The first one is this: praise good behavior, but only reward when it's new or challenging. In other words, don't bribe your kids with treats for doing what's already expected. Use rewards to motivate growth, not maintenance. Secondly, timers are a great thing to bring structure. If mornings are chaotic, get one of those little simple egg timers that you can buy for a few bucks. And then you set that timer, or you could use your phone or your watch or whatever, or your computer. You set a timer for 10 minutes and you say to the kids, hey, you're going to have 10 minutes to finish breakfast, and then it's time to get dressed. And then they go upstairs and get dressed. And if they lollygag and take a long time doing that every day, you could say, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to get dressed. Then it's time to brush your teeth. And that way, the timer, not you, is the bad guy. And it keeps the power struggle out of the relationship and out of the morning. The third suggestion is this: be clear and consistent. Make sure your kids know the rules ahead of time and ask, do you remember what happens if you do that? Whoa. Well, when you're using the 1, 2, 3 method and you get to 2, you can even say, hey, do you know what's going to happen if you hit 3? Yeah, it's going to be a timeout. And then they'll probably change. When they can tell you the consequence, then they've taken responsibility. Fourth suggestion, though, to be great parents and to raise your kids to be great adults is this: focus on guilt, not on shame. Now, we don't like the word guilt because it makes us feel bad, but guilt actually is a helpful way to train and to discipline ourselves. You see, when you feel guilty, you can do something about it, because guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. So you don't want your kids to walk around with that message in their heads or their hearts. But when they know that they've done something wrong, something hurtful, something bad, that they have disobeyed, then they can deal with it. And what do? They clean it up. Just like as an adult, and I teach this all the time to my couples in my marriage coaching, when you mess up, you got to clean it up. How do you do that? Well, confess, apologize, repent, say, I'm not going to do that again, and then ask for forgiveness. It's simple. We can clean up our messes. And so when your kids do something wrong and you correct them, make sure that if they feel guilty, that then they do something to make it right. What is that? Well, maybe they can ask you to forgive them. Maybe, depending on what it is, they can make amends. Or there's a punishment or a consequence that they experience. The idea behind guilt and not shame is this: guilt is temporary. Now, there's false guilt, and I'm not talking about that we're just feeling guilty for things that we didn't do. But when they admit or agree that they did something wrong, then let them apologize, and then you get to release forgiveness, and they're able to leave it alone and to let go of it and to move on. This is what God does for us, doesn't he? He says in the Bible that there is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. That's Romans 8:1. And the idea behind that is that when we come with our guilt and we say, Jesus, forgive me, and he does, then we can leave it and walk away and not walk in condemnation. So, knowing the difference between guilt and shame is how you correct behavior without damaging their self-image. Finally, never make a promise or a threat you can't keep. Oh, I learned this when I was a substitute teacher and working in youth ministry. And I would have these kids acting up and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I would then make a promise or essentially state a consequence. But I learned that it had to be something that I really would follow through on. For example, if you say to your kids, if you don't behave, we're not going to Disneyland. Well, if you're planning a family trip to Disneyland or Disney World and your kids act up, do you really want to cancel the trip because of that? Probably not. So now you're going to go back on your word, which was probably spoken unwisely, and you're going to let the kids off the hook so that you can have this nice family vacation and go to Disneyland. So what I'm saying is that if you're going to state a consequence, and it might sound like a threat, okay, then make sure that you can keep it. And if you promise something, you know what? If you do your chores, we're going to go to Disneyland. Well, you better look at the price tag and figure out how much it's going to cost and make sure that you can deliver on that promise. Why? Because your kids are smart. Empty consequences or empty promises destroy your credibility. They won't trust you. So only promise or state a consequence that you're willing to follow through on. The Bible has a lot to say about discipline, and it always connects discipline to love. Here's a few scriptures for you. Proverbs 13:24, whoever spares the rod hates their children, but the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. Now this, by the way, does not give approval for you to abuse your kids or beat them. No, it just means that if you're going to love your kids, you're going to discipline them appropriately. Proverbs 22:15 says, folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far away. That doesn't mean harshness or punishment either. It means wise, consistent correction that guides a child towards maturity. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. That word train means to discipline, to guide, and to steer. It's about forming character, not enforcing control. And then there's Ephesians 6:4, which says, parents, don't provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. When you discipline calmly and lovingly, you show them what God's discipline looks like. That it's firm, that it's fair, but it's also friendly and full of love. So here's my encouragement to you. Talk this over with your spouse. Get on the same page about what discipline is going to look like in your home. Create structures that are clear and consistent. And when things go wrong, don't react emotionally. Instead, respond thoughtfully. You're not just correcting behavior, you're shaping your kids' lives and their hearts. And when you lead with both grace and truth, you're teaching your kids not just how to behave, but how to become wise, responsible adults who also know that they're deeply loved. Parenting is hard, but you can do it with consistency, patience, and God's help. You can create a peaceful home, raise confident kids, and model the kind of love and leadership that changes lives. And if you want some help on how to do this, I would suggest you book a free call with me. I call it a strategy call, and I'll put the link in the description. In about 30 minutes, we'll discuss what's not working, and we'll fine-tune a plan that you'll be able to implement right away that will help you discipline and train and raise your kids with both grace and truth. So, as I said, the link will be in the description, or you can go to my website, which is turnitup.coach. Well, may God bless your marriage, bless your parenting, and fill your home with his peace as you walk this journey together. And if you want more information on this, check out the video on how to parent as a team. The link will be in the description. Bye-bye.